Okay, we are almost there. 30 seconds. 30 seconds is almost setting up. Please, once I we go live, I will let you know, Busola, so you can start.
Okay.
I don't know what's happening to mine. Okay, we are live.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the inaugural session of Afroed Conversation, West Africa edition. My name is Busola Babatun. I'm Director of Communications at the Afroed Network. So today we are exploring uh, mobile first learning, reimagining education in West Africa's digital economy. So we're not just talking about technology, but how we can solve real challenges like large class sizes, unstable power supply, high data costs, language barrier, and turning students from users into creators. So here in the room, we have an exceptional panel with us today. Dr. Taimusa Martin from Ghana. She's the Director of Partnerships at PlayLab AI, who has trained over 68,000 teachers. And we also have Dr. Kayode Adewaye from Nigeria. He's a Fulbright CEA Fellow, Global Teacher Prize Top, and 50 finalist, and a leading voice in innovative mathematics education. And also, we are going to have Mr. Sander Dion from Senegal. He is the education inspector and he's an education inspector and pedagogical advisor in the Ministry of National Education. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be starting with a quick icebreaker, and then we'll move into the target questions for each of our guests. Dr. Taimoso, you're welcome. Dr. Kayode, you're welcome. And Director, you're also welcome. So to the icebreaker question. So when we say mobile first learning in West Africa, what is the biggest misconception that traditional school leaders still have about smartphones in the classroom? So I'd like Dr. Taimosa to go first.
Thank you so much. I am so grateful for this opportunity to join this pristine convening and to join this panel. I think the biggest misconception that I've seen is that teachers are not already using AI, they're not already using their devices to leverage these types of tools in their teaching, and that these are tools that are really not necessarily relevant within the instructional environment, and that there are opportunities to really think strategically about how to ensure that these types of tools are used with intention, that they're used with visibility and awareness. So that's what I would start with, and I will continue to dig into that notion as we continue our conversation today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Taimosa. Dr. Kaide.
Hello, please, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
So please, the questions again. I think you talk about an icebreaker, or do you? Can you hear me?
Yes, it is.
So please, the
Yes.
question, the question again.
So the question is that when we say mobile first learning in West Africa, what is the biggest misconception that traditional students still have about smartphones in the classroom?
Well, one of the greatest, let me first of all appreciate the convener for giving us this opportunity to add our voice to this important discussion, especially at this moment when the learning is going to another place entirely, especially what we are facing currently in our country. Let me say one of the greatest misconceptions about technology is that it required expensive devices, then constant connectivity, then sophisticated infrastructure. But my own experience as a teacher in the Federal Republic of Nigeria has really taught me that innovation is not all about availability of technology. It's all about you as a teacher being creative in the use of any materials you see around. But I know by the time you get into the discussion, we'll talk more about it, because in many West African classrooms, we face a lot of reality, such as overcrowded class, unstable electricity, and limited internet access. However, despite all these challenges that you are seeing, mobile phone that many people are running away from, as I'm talking to you now, a lot of research has confirmed that for every 10, uh, 10 individuals you see in West Africa, 6 out of the 10 are on one social media or the other, meaning they were using that device to access that. So it's no longer a kind of a challenge. On a practical approach of it, one of some of these learners that we are talking about, you see using devices out of the classroom, that visiting sites that are consuming the content that are not educative at all. And these are some of those things that we see as a challenges. But if other teachers can leverage on these devices that these children were using, they will definitely get it right. Of course, like I said, by the time we get into the conversation, we'll get more on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Dr. Kaide. So now we are going to dive deep into the questions. I'll start with Dr. Martin. You have successfully reached over 68,000 teachers across 712 schools in Ghana. And what are the most practical and effective strategies for building AI and digital literacy among those teachers who have limited experience, especially in under-resourced schools with large class size?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. And I think that it's really critical to name that the work that we're doing here at Play Lab is deeply ingrained and aligned with the Ministry of Education's priorities, systems, and structures. So when we're asking the question of how do we ensure that there is coverage, that there's reach, that we're ensuring that there's consistency in the exposure and consistency in the support that teachers are getting in the use of these digital tools, we have to look at what the research has said about what's already working within Ghana's educational landscape. So as a part of Ghana's senior high school curriculum reform, there was a structure that was put in place where all schools were required on a weekly basis to bring teachers together in professional learning communities. So there was a study that was done that suggested that there was high compliance, teachers were going, that there was regular session execution. So there were evidence of regularly scheduled times that schools had carved out for teachers to come together in these communities for shared learning and experiences. And knowing that this was something that was instituted, that teachers were already participating in and already experiencing, the use of the AI-empowered apps that were developed in partnership with the ministry were deployed through those professional learning communities. So that means that teachers are not left on their own to figure out how to use these tools. Teachers are working in communities with others. So that means that multiple users can be on a single device, a phone, a laptop, to experience and utilize these tools, practice with them in a low stakes environment, and do so in partnership with their peers who may have variable experience with utilizing tools of this nature. So the answer to the question that has been posed is, when we know that there's limited access to devices, when we know that there's unevenness in the capacity and the fluency of teachers to utilize tools like these, creating communities of learning is a really powerful way to ensure that we're meeting their needs.
Hello?
Basola, you're muted.
Oh, just observe. I can't hear anything again. Oh, hello, Busola.
Busola, you are
Can you
muted.
hear me
There you
now?
Okay.
go.
Oh, yeah. You back now. You are back now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Terimosa. Thank you once again for that contribution. Okay, so to Dr. Kaya now. So we know that in West Africa we have uh, some of the largest classes,
Um,
I mean class sizes globally. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So we have the largest class sizes globally in West Africa. So the question is, how can teachers practically implement mobile first pedagogy in these overcrowded classrooms with limited power and internet while making learning culturally relevant? I think you have expertise in that
maybe
area.
our network is having issue. Busala,
No,
are you
I
there?
can hear you. Can you? I think our network is okay now. Busola,
Yes,
can you hear me? Busola, please, can you hear me?
yes, I can.
All right. Thank you
I
very
can hear
much.
you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Like I said earlier, so when we are talking about West African classroom, of course, we are facing more than what you are talking about. We face overcrowding. We face unstable electricity. We also face limited internet access as well. But however, despite all these challenges, one resources is increasingly available, which is the mobile phone. Like I said in the icebreaker question you asked the other time. And I've said, try to talk about what research has said, the outcomes of a lot of researches that researchers have conducted in West African classroom. Now, for every 10 parents or 10 students you see, 6 out of them, which is 60%, will be on one social media or the other. Meaning they have the devices, they have what they can use, in engaging students. But instead of these people, using this mobile phone, they were using them, using them in another form. So it's forming another more or less as a distraction. In fact, teachers should also even need to review some of the learning tools they use. Let's go on to the practical aspect of it. The practical approach is to adopt a one device. Many learners are strategies. Like, I don't know if many of you have listened to my story that I was in a class one day and I was actually taking one of the most difficult topics in mathematics. And I was busy explaining. And when it got to the times of, getting feedback from the student, and I was asking questions from them, and none of the students could answer this until I got a response from one of the students who speak my local language. And these are the set of the students that always, you see them with their devices in the school. So teachers can share short video in controlling the overcrowded so that this student can as well, engage or play around with this video. They go online, they visit all these YouTube, they visit Snapchat and other things, but they were not getting the actual content, to consume online. They are not getting actual content. So teachers, like I said, we can share images with them despite the overcrowded classes. We can come into the classes with different what is it called, flashcard. We can as well make use of simulation and other problem solving activity through WhatsApp. Go and, if you check our record very well, the higher education potential of the year 2020, which was during the period of COVID-19, was still the highest so far. And people keep we keep answering, questioning ourselves that what could have been. These are the period when school was shut down and children were not going to school. But do you forget that around that moment was the time that parents were engaging in the learning process of the children? They were making use of phones, they were making use of WhatsApp to learn and the like. And this was the only year that we recorded the higher education potential so far in our education system. So to make learning culturally relevant, or educators should just conceptualize lesson using some of these examples, or creating content that can be available for these students, so that anytime they even want to go online, if they were facing with some of these overcrowded or some of these things we are facing in our classroom, they get back home, they want to do anything online, they should see content that are educative, that they can play around with, which is going to support their learning. So for us as a teacher, we can also encourage this student, to document some of these local problem using their phones by the time they get it. So for instance, like I said, students can make use of their devices to conduct some investigation. They can use it to do some other things, some research, which will help us, in controlling some of these overcrowded, because you cannot get everything in the classroom. So we need to make available some of these sites or simulation or whatsoever that can support whatever we put into the education system between the hours of 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So these are some of those areas that we can also make use of, implementing the mobile first pedagogy in any overcrowded classroom with limited resources, especially in the West Africa. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know where why Busola's network is. I think our network is having issues. I don't know why. Maybe she will.
She's here. Is she here? She's not here again.
Yeah, but we will continue. I will help her standing before she's able to. Okay, Dr. Teimosa, let me ask this question. Okay, she's back, but while she's preparing to join, Dr. Teimosa, as ministries, this is the question I want to ask. Okay, Busola, are you here? Are you here now? Okay, please take over. Dr. Teimosa, question now.
Okay.
Yes, she's here.
Okay, so back to so sorry I missed out on Dr. Kaidi's contribution. So back to Dr. Teimosa. So the second question, as ministries across Africa show growing interest in large-scale AI deployment, what are the biggest risks that you've seen for this adoption? And how can we ensure responsible, ethical, and culturally relevant use of AI in the classroom?
Thank you so much for that question. I think Ghana is an incredible example of how AI tools can be deployed responsibly in ways that are culturally as well as locally relevant and linguistically relevant as well. So going back to this idea of what are our existing priorities, we know that when we just add and pile and, and put more and more responsibilities on teachers that are not connected to priorities, initiatives tend to fail because teachers don't know how it fits within their broader environment. So there could be the danger of just wanting to implement AI for AI's sake, because that's the new hot topic and that's what everybody is focused on right now. But being deliberate, being intentional, and being thoughtful about how it fits within existing priorities and how tools such as AI can help to address a challenge, a specific problem that is facing the system or facing teachers within that system, we can then harness the power and the use of tools like this to address a particular challenge. So in the case of Ghana, again, we've already established that they had a priority around senior high school curriculum revision and refinements. So this is work that had already been ongoing. The ministry had orchestrated a massive curriculum revision that included curriculum experts from all over the country that essentially rewrote all 3 years of senior high school curriculum, content, materials, etc. Additionally, as a part of that curriculum reform, teachers were also being asked to think and use assessments in a fundamentally different way than had traditionally been used. So instead of focusing on the 1 or 2 summative terminal assessments that have traditionally been in the system that had largely been used as tools for accountability, teachers are now being asked to be incredibly thoughtful and intentional about how they themselves were designing assessments as learning, for learning, and of learning. The data suggested that while teachers were trying to do this, that they were trying to integrate and internalize the new curriculum into their ongoing practice, that they were trying to leverage assessments in a different way, that they were struggling with. So to just add another layer of expectation on top of all of this would have been counterproductive and counterintuitive. So what we discovered was there was a specific challenge around the internalization of content and materials, the translation of those content and materials into instructional actions that teachers could take in the classroom, and the challenges that teachers were having in developing high quality curriculum aligned assessments, that AI could be a tool to help address some of those challenges. So in partnership with the ministry, we built AI tools that were grounded in the Ghana curriculum, standards, national values, national teaching standards, the assessment frameworks, all of the things that teachers were expected to integrate into their practice. These apps were developed based on those principles and those documents. So they weren't going to an open source AI vehicle that was just pulling content from anywhere. They were actually leveraging a tool that was specific to their content and was trained to provide them with culturally, contextually, and locally relevant strategies to address the needs of the students in front of them. The other is that teachers were not mandated to use these tools. This was offered to them as a support vehicle. It was something that they could use optionally. And as teachers were introduced to these tools, like I said, universally through the professional learning communities, this is how we ensure that all teachers have been exposed to these materials. They began to see the incredible value that these tools brought to them and how much time it saved, how much easier it made their work, much less labor intensive, where they could now focus on how to deliver instruction than just writing the administrative lesson plan. So that's what I would offer in terms of being responsible, being intentional, and ensuring that deployment is done in a way that leads to success and sustainability.
Thank you so much for that contribution, Dr. Martinez. Okay, but before I go to Dr. Kaide, I would like to just ask this from Dr. Martin. So I'd like to ask, how do you cover up for those in under-resourced schools or those in the remote areas, in rural areas, regarding the use of AI and mobile learning in the classroom? Dr. Thermostat, did you hear me?
Is that for me?
Dr. Martin?
I'm sorry, Bisola, was that question for me or for Dr. Adalaway?
Yes, yes. I was saying that before I go to Dr. Kayode, I would like to know, can you please share with us what you just discussed on, how you use AI and technology in the classroom. I want you to share with us, how do you do this for under-resourced schools and for schools in rural areas, schools whose children do not have a mobile technology like a phone to use in the classroom, or their teachers do not have advanced Android phones or smartphones to use. How do we do that?
Excellent, thank you. So going back to the original deployment method, by doing this in professional learning communities with your peers, again, we don't have to assume that in a group of 5 teachers or a group of 8 teachers that every single teacher has their own device. But we can assume that there will be some devices in that group. So you are not relying upon your own accessibility to a device to leverage a tool such as this in order to build a learning experience for your students that are actually going to be executable within your individual classroom environment. So again, we want to make sure that the tools that we're building are not only grounded in the standards, the curriculum, the local content that teachers are responsible for, but is also capable of providing teachers with relevant, meaningful recommendations for how it is they can deliver that content, regardless of what the environment has available. So we want an app that's able to say, okay, here is a recommendation for a learning plan for a classroom that has no internet connectivity, or maybe has only a limited number of devices, or maybe it has only a whiteboard. So we can leverage the technology to think about ways that we can deliver instruction that's aligned with the spirit and intention of the curriculum and still aligned with the ideas and principles of 21st century skills and values. Collaboration, problem solving, communication. You don't necessarily need a high-tech environment to do those things, but in a community of others leveraging technology, you can get recommendations for how to institute experiences that lead to those kinds of outcomes with whatever technology, high or low, that you have at your disposal within your own classroom. So that's one thing. Second thing that I also want to name is that the tools that we have built in partnership with the ministry are designed to operate in low bandwidth environments. These are very light tools. So they are chat-based tools. So there's not a whole lot of bells and whistles. You don't have videos and all kinds of heavy technical data draining information that's being presented in these tools. So that means that a teacher that is in a low bandwidth environment can access these tools because they're not burdened by how heavy the tools are and how complex the model is to run. So we have been very intentional in identifying what are the best models that are most cost efficient and highest quality that leads to the outcomes that are going to be most beneficial for teachers, so that teachers in even remote areas with limited internet access have the ability to leverage these tools. So what we have found in our data analysis is that teachers in all 16 regions of Ghana are utilizing these tools. So we have evidence to suggest that teachers, even in lower bandwidth environments, while the speed and the performance of the apps may not be as quick as places where there is higher bandwidth, we do know that teachers are still able to access and utilize these tools. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Martin. Thank you for that contribution. So back to Dr. Kayode. Your second question, sir.
Go ahead.
Many students are highly active on mobile phones, but mostly are they do more consuming information, consuming entertainment. So how can educators lead the students into active creators and critical thinkers, especially
Hello, Busola.
Okay, I'm so sorry. It's the network again. Okay, so I was on the second question for Dr. Kayode. So the second question is, many students are highly active on mobile phones, but most of them are consumers. They do more of consuming entertainment and social media stuff. So how can educators design mobile-based activities that would turn the students into active creators and critical thinkers, especially in STEM subjects? Dr. Kaidi.
All right, thank you. Yes, I'm with you. Yeah, thank you very much. Like I said in the last question you asked, that our problem today is not the problem of how to get these children know how to make use of some of these consuming content or know where to get content. But our problem is we are not making available the content, exact content that the students are looking for. So one of the biggest educational challenges today is not access to information, but what students do with that information. Are those information available for them to do? Because we see many young people, or some of these children we take these days, they spend hours consuming content on TikTok. I'm on TikTok, and I know there are some students that create uneducative content that can reach like 50,000 views within hours. Some of them are on YouTube, some of them are on Instagram, some of them are on other social platform, but they are fighting this reality, which educators have to leverage on, and that is making this educative content available for them. And this is my own philosophy. It is very simple. Do not ask the student only to watch the content. You challenge them to create content. It is what I have done before in my own classroom. And I think the story was shared on channels sometime around February last year, where they are trying to ask. They came to my school and they were asking those students, is it true that your teacher asked you to start creating content? And I said, it happened when I was teaching them. And I have to make use of my local language, and it becomes a challenge for all of them. They were like, oh, you are speaking your own Ijebu. Can we also speak Igbo for those of us that are Igbo? Can we also speak Hausa for those of us that are Hausa? And they said, okay, no problem. Let's go on a challenge. And I will create content in English. I will also create it in Ijebu. Those that can speak Hausa will create content in an Hausa, and I will push it online. Don't forget, with their consent, because as a teacher, you need to seek for the consent of these students. They have to sign some documents for you so that in the nearest future, they will not take you to court that, oh, we were doing this unknowingly to us, because maybe they can tell you that they were innocent. That's why you are taking advantage of this, asking them to create content. Because some of them may think you are taking it to get money online or the like. So I do this and it work out. And we push some of their content online, and it start becoming a challenge. Oh, who is that first student that his or her content first reach 500 views? Who are those students? So, and I started giving them a kind of little reward. And that is why I said, do not ask those students to only watch those content. Challenge them to create content on their own. So in a STEM education, so students can be, you as a teacher, you can ask them to use their mobile phone to create a short science experiment video. Probably maybe we talk about bisection, or you talk about photosynthesis. You give them an assignment on photosynthesis in biology, ask them to create content out of this. Why the green plant is manufacturing through the chlorophylls, or why they were taking those experiments at home. In the areas of mathematics, you can ask them to produce mathematics tutorial, explaining concepts to their peers, like I did in my own class. You can as well ask them to record interview with local artisans or entrepreneur. There was a day one of my uncle was trying to share his personal experience with me. And he was asking, he asked his neighbor that, oh, are you done with your holiday assignment? And that guy said, in fact, I'm not sure I can finish the holiday assignment. And he asked him that, what was the holiday assignment? And he said the holiday assignment was to go around and be interviewing entrepreneurs around. How did they arrive to the level they had now? And he said from that day, he called his own children's school that, what kind of holiday assignment do you give these children? And it was all theories holidays assignment. I said, and you want these children to compete with the children that have started going out at this age, interviewing people in knowing what they are going to become in the nearest future. So we need to make everything practical. And again, we can also then ask them to design an infographic and digital poster that are related to what we have taught them in the school. They can as well collate, analyze community data using spreadsheets and mobile devices. Maybe I've shared this online before, and I'm still going to repeat this again. My first time in US classroom, they were teaching advanced placement statistics. And my partner teacher, Spen said, Kayode, we are going to the field to go and conduct statistics. And I said, what kind of statistics? What mathematics has to do with going with field? And when we got there, He took us to the top, and he has started asking us to be doing a bambing jumping. So we were doing the throwing. The students were recording the data of their throw on the field, and we came back into the class with the data we gather and be using it for our advanced placement statistics class. And I was just looking at it that if left to us in West Africa, we might have come up with a data, and we'll be asking them to do analysis of those data. Can you do descriptive analysis of this? A ready-made data that are not the one, they are not the one that do this. So when you do this sometimes, you are only asking them to create a content which is going to make a kind of retentive in their memory. So you can also ask them to develop a simple coding project or digital solution to local problem, like for those of us in the computer science. So for example, after my own teaching my own subject, so I often ask some of these students, like I've said, do some of this kind of things. So teacher can also introduce project-based mobile learning, like the first simulation. I was doing first simulation on my own here in Nigeria until I got invitation from University of Colorado in US to come and translate some of those simulations into different languages for them in Nigeria. So these are some of those things you can do as a teacher that you can actually make those students to transform from passive consumer to active curator. Thank you. Busola, are you still there?
Thank you so much.
Hello, Busola.
I think
Yes.
I think she's having network problem. Are you there now, Busola?
Yes. Can you
Okay,
hear me
move on.
now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
So
Thank you so much.
yeah, so thank you very much. So in conclusion to that, like I said, because I couldn't get a response from you, that when students become a curator, researcher and problem solving, community leader, they develop what they call critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, digital literacy skill, and the very competence needed for the future workforce when you allow and you expose them to this kind of a thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that contribution, Dr. Kayode. So now back to Dr. Taimusa. Our third question, and I think that's the last one for Dr. Taimusa on this one. Drawing from your experience in building high impact partnerships, what key lessons have you learned about creating sustainable collaborations that go beyond short-term pilots, especially when combining mobile first learning with AI tools?
Yeah, thank you
Dr.
so
Taimusa.
much for that question. So I think the thing that stands out in my mind is pilot with purpose. Pilot with the intention of scale. Understand what questions the pilot needs to answer that will help us to get the scale. Are these questions related to cost? Are these questions related to reach? Are these questions related to how the system is able to manage high volume of usage? So these were some of the things that we were looking at when we were moving from the pilot phase, which was just a couple of hundred teachers that were trying out tools. We wanted to first make sure that these tools were working accurately, that they were working effectively, and that they were working consistently, because you don't want to go from pilot to scale with tools that are faulty. So, and making sure that you're taking the time to investigate the efficacy of the tools that you are planning to roll out. Making sure that teachers are part of the process so that you're not scaling something that you don't have any buy-in or any belief or confidence in. How do you use that pilot opportunity to really build belief and build confidence and excitement about what these tools can do, so that you're not investing in trying to roll something out systematically or systemically that there's no real investment in by the end user. The other thing that I would also encourage is understanding what the potential pitfalls of going to scale are. When you actually roll out a tool at scale, what can you learn from the pilot that will help you understand what might break? If you go to scale, can this tool manage that scale? So being really intentional and ensuring that you're not deploying something that's fundamentally not going to work when it goes to scale. And then the other thing is understanding long-term cost implications. How much does this pilot, how much are you seeing that usage cost in the pilot phase so that you can be intentional and thoughtful about how it is that you're able to identify budget opportunities, grant opportunities, or partnership opportunities that will help you to manage the cost of tools going to scale, because the last thing that you want to do is put something out there and then take it away because you just don't have the capacity to financially sustain it. So those are the things that I would offer in terms of how do we purposefully go from pilot to scale.
Thank you so much, Dr. Perimusa. Thank you for that wonderful contribution. So back to the third question, Dr. Kayode, and the final question. You have created hundreds of educational videos and radio programs in your local language, or in our local language here in Nigeria, Ijebu. So how can teachers and schools effectively use low data and offline mobile strategies and local language, content to improve learning outcomes in under-resourced communities? I think I even asked Dr. Perimusa the other time. So, Dr. Kayode.
All right, thank you very much. So you are referring to leveraging low data, offline, local language strategies for learning. Of course,
Yes,
you
sir.
see, in many under-resourced community, the most effective educational technology is often the simplest. For my years, over 2 decades as a teacher, I've been teaching in underdeveloped community, and I know what it takes to, to ask these children to consume content that has to do with data, or that has to do with anything that has to do with online. So my work are producing over 200 educational videos, just like you have said, and hosting radio programs and other things that I do that has to do with online. It makes learning improve when content is as accessible, avoidable, and culturally familiar. So teachers and school can implement several practical strategies. One of the strategies that I will first of all talk about is prioritizing low data content. Instead of using a long video, teacher can create short video within 3 minutes. I didn't know this until I met a friend, a same Nofu, and he was trying to tell me that, Kayode, these children will never consume content that are more than 3 minutes. You need to create a short version content that will give a precise information. So, and that is why I said you have to prioritize a low data content. So instead of you creating a long video, you can create 3 minutes or 5 minutes micro learning, clips, focusing on one concept at a time. For those of you that are following me very well, there was a time I started a project that I called 100 short way to solve mathematics problem. Those are the 100 mathematics tricks, and it is not more than 1 minute video. And some of this video went viral. Even when I started my creating content in Ijebu, I try to make sure that those content are not more than 1 minute, so that they can they can be a kind of a low data content that the children can consume within the period of the time. The second one is distributing learning materials offline. You can download those content. Content can be shared through memory card, Bluetooth, or local server, or flash drive. Though this time around there are no disk again, or community learning hub. So internet access cannot, be a barrier at that moment. What we did in 2020, and that is why I will keep giving kudos to the current TRCM registrar, Dr. Mrs. Ronke Shoyombo. What we did then was that whatever content we create, we show them on OGTV, and thereafter we push them to the YouTube, and we advise community leader to download some of this video, and they can be playing it for them in form of a playlet or some of these things like that. They gather them together, or we put them on a flash drive and give them that these are the content that they can consume. These are the educative content they can consume. The third one is that using the local language strategically. Students learn best when you introduce a new concept connecting with their what is it called, with something they've learned before. And that is why I talk about relatable example. For my years in classroom as math teacher, when I want to talk about money, I will never talk about dollar, I will never talk about pounds. It's better you talk about relatable example, talk about some of those things they can see around them, explaining difficult concepts in their own local language. I've talked about Obiriko, I've talked about Adojuko, I've talked about some of those. I've brought a lot of new concepts that are locally strategical, that will make will cause a knowledge retention for the student. So for me as a mathematics teacher, using that Ijebu dialect in teaching, I've demonstrated that local language instruction can increase engagement, confidence, even participation among learners who might otherwise, struggling with technical English terminology. There was a day one of my friends in US asked me that, Nigerians, why do you always frown when you are speaking English? I said, do you know we are not native speaker? Sometimes when we are saying it, it's going to take about 3 or 4 process. When you speak the English in the class as a teacher, it takes the students that are from this what is it called, underserved community, to translate it back to the local language. And when they want to respond back, they have to think of how they were going to say it in English. So the fourth one is that combine traditional and digital media. Radios remain one of the most powerful educational tools in Africa. Unfortunately, these days, nobody listens to radios again. People prefer to go online. And of course, for radio, it's just a matter of just tune to the frequency and you start learning. So through many radio programs, I have tried to reach audience that may have not have access to online. So teachers can go on teaching on radio, school can combine radio broadcast, something like SMS-based learning, or WhatsApp group, or printed material to create blended learning ecosystem. And finally, I will talk on the focus on community involvement. Parents, community leaders, and local organizations can support learning by providing access point, challenging station, like I said, the way Dr. Ronka Shoyombo did in 2020, share devices, learning spaces. So the goal is not merely to digitalize education, but is to, democratize access to quality learning opportunity. So that's what I can say about that now. But I don't know if I'll still have time to have a parting shot before we leave the conversation. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on this platform.
Thank you so much, sir, for your contribution and for your time. So I don't know if we have questions from YouTube, from our YouTube audience. Mr. Emerald, please can you help us check? Okay, so before we I don't know if there's going to be any question or if there is already. Before we close, just one final question. I would like to ask, so where do we start from? What policies should be in place in order to implement mobile first learning? What should the government do, or what can, okay, I think we already talked about communities come together, teachers come together, but what policies can be in place? How should we approach the government?
My opinion is that the starting place may be different for different places. I don't think there's a universal starting place. I think that we have to be data informed. I think we need to consider what existing strategies we're already prioritizing and identify, well, where are the highest leverage, lowest lift, lowest cost priorities that we can set that are integrated into existing priorities, so that we're not adding on and creating more confusion and creating more challenge than is necessary. So every community, every government is going to have to identify that for themselves. So that's what I would offer. I don't think there's a universal starting place that's going to be appropriate for everyone.
Okay.
I'll add one other thing while other people are getting back online is, I've heard a lot of discussion, particularly from Dr. Coyote about local language. And we know that the LLMs, the AI that currently exists, has limited training data on African languages. So we need to consider how it is that we're creating or prioritizing the creation of content that are in local languages that could be translated into machine readable content so that we have reference materials that our AI tools are able to leverage in support of the delivery of content in local languages. The majority of large language models are developed and created in the US and the UK, as well as China. And those are places that are not necessarily prioritizing the development of models that are fluent in local indigenous languages. So how do we take the charge of that and make sure that there are materials that are available and accessible to help with the development of content in local language?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Dr. Kayode, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I guess my network. I can't.
Can you
Yes,
hear me?
we can hear you.
At a point, I can't hear you. I lost the connection at a point. I don't know if you are. Can you please say that again? So sorry. Busola, are you there?
Yes, I am. So sorry. I didn't know, Dr. Martin, so sorry. I didn't get from where you started the conversation, so I don't know who it's directed at.
I was sharing about the prioritization of the most relevant starting place or entry points that may vary from country to country depending on where they are. And the second is the prioritization of the development of content in local languages. So those were my two recommendations.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, Dr. Kayode, so the question I asked was, what policies should be in place? How should we approach the government on this, implementing mobile first learning
Yes.
education?
Okay, thank you very much. I think I had talking about you. It's not you can. It's not necessary. You start from government. You see, some of those things, like the one I started, no one taught me to do that. I didn't get the policy from anywhere because, of course, when if I still wait to start with government, bureaucracy and other things can stop me in doing this. So it shows you taking this to us as an educator. We are an agent of change. It can start with us. It's not necessary we wait for government to do anything. And that was what Martins is trying to say. And I'm also in support of that. In 2020, I had a very nice experience as one of the first 20 teachers selected by state government in my own state to start creating content during lockdown. And after we finished the production, and I was like, what will I be doing this time around? Schools were shut down. We are at home. How can I complement the effort of state government? And that was what led me started creating content in 2020. So it's not in all cases we have to wait for government to start doing something. When you see that these things are right, this thing can support our education system, start doing it on your own. And it can become something that the global world or everyone will just take as another form of this thing. And I think after I started creating it in my own local language, I've seen many other teachers coming out to adopt this and do other things like that. And thank God for the coming up of the artificial intelligence. Even if someone is creating content in another language you don't understand, there are some AI tools that can actually assist you in translating this into something that you can also listen to in your own local language. So, like I said in my own conclusion before we leave, if you cannot transform a mobile phone from entertainment devices into learning tools, empower students to become a creator rather than a consumer, because deliver culturally relevant content in that language that I do. We can also use that one to bridge the educational gap and unlock the potentials of millions of young people across Africa. So the challenge will become before us is not about technology, it is transformational. And as an educator, we have the power to lead that transformation, not until when government do this for us. Thank you for having me. Busola is gone again. She's not here again.
Yes, it looks like we've lost Busola.
Yes, she's not here again. She has network issue. But so I want to say a very big thank you to Dr. Kayode and Dr. Martin. Thank you so much for that session. And then what we have seen so far, or what we have learned is that West Africa is one of the strongest points as far as digital transformation is concerned. And then, of course, this particular topic was brought as a result of the fact that people are saying, yes, we have a strong connection. But yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So the issue we brought to the front burner is that first, we do not need, as West Africa, we do not need laptops or quote and unquote very big gadgets to start creating resources, to start driving quality learning. And that's one of the core message for the West African education framework. For we want to see where with our phone, our smartphone, we can create content, we can create resources, we can create materials that drive quality education. And then a very good point that we have also mentioned is that the government will not, we should not wait for the government. We not wait for policies or some paper documents to start. Right from the classes, even school owners can begin to schools can begin to create curriculum and can create structures around encouraging mobile learning, hybrid learning, and of course using mobile devices to create educational content, to create materials that are beneficial to their students. Again, of course, the argument that will come is that what if the children mismanage or misuse the mobile phones or the smartphones that they have? But there is no innovation or there is no initiative that won't have its limitation. But that is why regulations comes into place, where schools and parents must regulate the use of this smartphone. But that should not stop us from using mobile phones to create what is necessary, because this is the age that we are, and we should not have something that will deter us from maximizing every resources that this AI age has created for us. So it's a wonderful conversation that we've had, and then the take home is that we need to start acting. One, we have a very strong, by virtue of statistics, West Africa has the highest number of mobile users when compared to other regions. So it is a leverage for us. Since you have high number users of smartphones, we can start using it to create resources and drive quality education. Thank you so much, Dr. Kayode, and of course, Dr. Martin, for joining the session. These conversations will continue. We are also looking at other issues peculiar to other regions, and also we are also going to be looking at issues around African education and African schools, with a view to look at specific solutions and how we can get started. So the conversations continue. And of course, anytime we have you, we believe that every time we call you, we believe that you are going to join us. Thank you so much for joining this conversation. Bye-bye. We have ended the conversation today. Afroed conversation continues.
Bye. Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting us here.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye. Bye, Martins.
Okay.